First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Such an important topic. Boy, I see this Tina's not here anymore. But what a dynamo. Wow. She had a lot of nice things to say. But as all of our speakers have talked, it has reminded me of several things that I wasn't going to speak about, but I thought maybe I ought to at least give my perspective. The one thing I would try to talk to Tina about and her foundation, they have a terrific mission. All of us in the room would agree that the college education is something we would always encourage. But at Delton Kellogg, I can tell you that in my days as the high school principal, which were many years, every opening week I would speak to all of our student body, usually by class in our auditorium, which only seats a few hundred. So one of the messages I always gave them all, and this was back in 1990, was that, yes, you all need some kind of post-high school education. For many of you, the statistics will bear out, about half of you will attempt a four-year institution or a two-year institution. But the other half need to attend something. And that could be a trade school. That could be all kinds of different post-high school options. We have never thought that the college education is for all. In Berry County, in Delton Kellogg, we have lots of kids that want to work. We have lots of kids that absolutely do need that post-high education. But they want to work with their hands. They want to work in a trade. They want to do things that might not take 4 to 6 years to complete. And so we really believe strongly that every student needs to attend some post-high education, but that not all of them are likely to attend college. Now, I also want to speak to the funding part just for a moment. I also think that as well as the things that Tina talked about, which were outstanding, that I think that us as parents have a role. I know that when my 3 children were born, and I was teaching and not making very much money, but we, of course, started a fund like many of you probably have, a small fund, what they now call a 529 plan, that I hoped by the time they were 18 years old would be worth enough to help them get started. And of course it was. All 3 of my children did go the community college route before they went to the 4-year institution. Back then there was even this MEP scholarship that they were able to access, which is not available to them now, but that helped them. A couple of them played baseball at that level, so they got a little help that way. But the bottom line is that we didn't have to hit that fund until they got to the 4-year institution. So that was a help. And I think all of us can help in that regard, usually for very little money. And so that's another piece of the puzzle. Certainly it's not like when I went to Western Michigan, when I could work part-time to help work my way through, and the tuition was cheap enough back then that other than about $500 that my mother and father helped me with, I was able to cover my undergraduate education. It's not that way anymore. The costs are far exceeding that scenario. So if I was to try to corner Tina a little bit, which I was going to do here, but I see she's gone, I was going to congratulate her, and she's an absolute dynamo. I can understand why Lumina Foundation is strong when you have employees like that, but I would try to convince her that to come on board with the idea that any type of post-high education is very, very good. We all know how many jobs there are in the trades, and how that industry's coming back now, and often there aren't enough people to fill them. And so it's one of the things that I like about Berry County, what our ISD has tried to help with, along with many other folks. At Delton Kellogg, we still are one of the few schools left, I think, that has an auto shop all day long, auto tech classes. We have a machine shop operating all day long, and we have a construction trades that builds a house every 2 years, operating all year long, or all day long. We still think that's very important, and I'll speak to some of that here as I continue. Delton Kellogg. Delton Kellogg is a dynamite little district just south of here, about 15 minutes away, sitting amongst many, many lakes, streams, woods. We're kind of equidistant between Battle Creek, Kalamazoo, and Grand Rapids. Our high school sits on above Crooked Lake, which is a beautiful scene if you've ever been there. Our high school students just don't know how good they have it every day to sit in that dining commons and look out onto that scene on Crooked Lake. I keep thinking that one of these years I'm going to be smart enough to get my office located up there. But I haven't been able to pull that off yet. But maybe someday. We have just under 1,500 students in our district, probably about half the size of Hastings, maybe even less than that of Thornapple Kellogg. We are the center of our community, and we're very important to the economic climate and in our surrounding area. Our school site includes about 90 acres, all on one site. Academically, just a few highlights. Just as Hastings achieved this past year, we were named a top 75 high school and top-rated high schools in Michigan. Our advanced placement program is very strong. We offer up to 16 classes, usually with 75 to 80% of them achieving what most colleges would give college credit for, which is a 3, 4, or 5. Some colleges, it's just a 4 or a 5 on those tests. Some with a 3 will accept, but it's very strong. Most of these staff members have had to go to many, many trainings over the summer in order to even teach those tests or those classes, and it's a very important program for us. We are a partner with the Battle Creek Area Math and Science Center. It took many years to cultivate that relationship, but that's been also very important to us. We also partner with the Calhoun Area Career Center. So they have many vocational programs that we have not been able to sustain. And so we do have a number of our students that make that trip over to Battle Creek by Kellogg Community College, right next door, to avail themselves of those programs. We're also a partner with a very important partner with Big Brothers and Big Sisters here of Berry County. I happen to sit on the board of that group, and we have a very large school program where we match up high school students with at-risk elementary students, and they get together once a week during the school year to get to know and to mentor those elementary kids. We've been collaborating for a couple years now with Hastings and with the Berry Intermediate School District in a purposeful way, just to sit at the table and talk about ways we may do things more efficiently. It's been good. We haven't necessarily come up with solutions all the time, but the conversations with board members and superintendents and other folks have been very fruitful, been very good. We are constantly taking a look several times a year. Is there a situation that might present itself where we may be able to share, where we may save money, as well as become more efficient? The ISD, too, has been looking at ways to help each district. We've been doing that for a couple years now. What's been proposed recently by Superintendent Flanagan at the state level, his his idea about ISDs becoming more involved and taking on some of the tasks of the local districts. We've really been talking about that for a couple years. Now, we haven't had the ideal situation yet to implement some of those ideas, but we believe, all of us, that as we move along, those opportunities will present themselves. And we will continue to talk. We have enjoyed those. I'm very sure that we'll get started again here in the fall and begin to sit down every other month or so to talk about that. As well, the ISD has been facilitating us to meet with legislators once a month. I'm sure that'll continue, and Thornapple Kellogg have joined us, Maple Valley have joined us in those meetings. And it keeps us able to have the ear of the legislators as they do some of their work in Lansing, much of which we aren't thrilled with. I'll leave it at that. An example of some of the sharing we've been able to do, we've partnered with Thornapple Kellogg, with a food service director now for several years. We have partnered with Maple Valley on that college access intern, which has been very effective for a couple years now. It has enabled us to have, 2 years ago, $1.1 million in scholarships with the help of that intern, working with our students and families. That was 2 years ago. This past year, $1.4 million. Now, you were talking about 100 to 120 graduates that are sharing those kinds of scholarship monies. We think it's significant. Now, the biggest thing that's happening in our school district right now is very exciting, and it stems from a long-range planning effort about 5 years ago that included taking a look at our facilities. And one of the 5 areas for that long-range planning was to take a hard look at what our facilities were able to do for our students. Now, if you remember, that was right back in the throes of a really tough recession. An economy in Michigan was in really dire straits. So at that time, we didn't feel led to go to our voters, although we saw lots of needs. But a year ago, our Board of Education did ask me to begin the effort with our community to take another look at the needs of our district. And we spent the entire fall up through December with focus groups, with community members, meeting at least once a month to take a look at those needs, prioritize those needs, and come up with a package that we thought our community would support. We then and that resulted in a 2-proposal a ballot initiative. We spent the rest of the year working on that campaign, communicating as best we could with all of our constituents, and resulted in a May vote, which was successful for both proposals by a significant margin. It was very affirming, and we are really excited about some of the things that are going to happen here in the next couple of years. This summer, there's new technology arriving on our campus for the adults. They're going to have up-to-date devices, of course, that are going to allow them to more easily interact with their students and families as we never have been able to before. Later in the fall, there'll be a committee that will be looking at student devices. And once those student devices are figured out which one is going to be the one, then the teaching staff will all get a copy of that. And then we'll be receiving training for the entire year on those devices, so that when the students get their devices in the fall of 2014, those teachers and students will be able to hit the ground running in the fall of 2014. As well, there's a lot of small groups, of course, working on some of the construction ends of things. And that's going to, all the bidding on that will happen over the winter. Construction will start in April, and there'll really be lots of action around our campus next summer. All summer we'll be very busy with all kinds of contractors working on some of the construction ends of things. That will continue into the fall, and then whatever's left will get done the following spring. Some of the highlights are upgrades to all computer labs and science labs, upgrading the high school auditorium, electrical systems changed to handle all the new technology, classroom furnishings likewise. Of course, the new technology that I mentioned all through the district for the adults and the student body, which will include one device for every child, high school and middle school, and possibly one-to-one in the elementary. Right now, it depends on the costs of those devices. We'll see how we do with that. We're also going to help the energy efficiency. We're going to be replacing boilers all through the district, which are going to be significant when it comes to savings operationally. And of course, where needed, a new roof, windows, doors, in order to help that situation. We're also going to replace the current gym floor at the high school along with bleachers in order for particularly our senior citizens who would like to come to our events and to get up and down those bleachers in an easier fashion. Those older bleachers were built in 1976, and they don't include things like handrails and things like that. And we're going to remodel all entrances so that they're safer, that there's a way to get into entrances with better visibility. Everybody funneled into the office, and we'll go from there. That's important for all of us nowadays. We're going to relocate and build a brand new playground. We're going to remodel restrooms throughout the district, take care of paving and driveway needs, buy 4 buses, probably the most important thing. Proposal 2 involved an auxiliary gym, which will host all kinds of opportunities for practices to get done in a timely manner for our teams, be able to host more and many different types of events, and will include a fitness/weight room down in that building that will, we hope, lead to much more community use. Folks like me who need the exercise and need to be able to use those in the evenings and things like that, that's what we're hoping will happen. And then a restroom concession building at the football track complex, new track down there as well. So it's exciting. There's lots of things to do. Doesn't help us operationally. As you know, operationally we can't use those funds at all. Those are used only for the construction projects. So we still have that problem, as all of us do, in trying to fund the programs and staffing that we need at our buildings. Challenges remain, of course, most of them to do with finances. And I'm not going to belabor that. I could talk a long time about that, but the problem is that the defunding of Michigan's public schools is critical. And it's been going on for a while, and we need help. And it's difficult to keep going on year by year with the cuts that all of us have had to keep making for the past 10 years. So I'll leave that at that. I'm sure some of my guys and folks following me will be able to speak to some more to that and some of the challenges they have. But it's really a pleasure to be here. I don't get up to Hastings as much as some do because we're so lean. It's hard for me to get away. But I really appreciate coming. I love to come to all the golf events where we raise money for charities and for other things. And I'd love to get away more and participate in some of the activities here. Maybe I'll be able to do that here in the near future. But thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.